Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt, I am the American-Canadian Gamer, and today I'm going to reveal my top 10 favorite Halo weapons from the entire franchise. Now, to me, Halo has some of the best weapons in any game. In a world where modern military shooters are the top dogs, Halo is more reminiscent of an era where having a multi-barreled heat-seeking rocket launcher was considered pretty normal. The weapons in these games just have the right mix of believability and imagination to set them apart from the rest of their brethren. But we all have a handful of weapons that makes us a bit happier than the others, and some of my favorites aren't exactly mainstream. So, without further ado, let's dive right into my top 10 favorite Halo weapons. Number 10, the DMR. There is a surprising amount of hate for this weapon, and I can kind of understand why. It replaced the fan-favorite battle rifle in Halo Reach, and it plagued the early days of Halo 4's multiplayer. But I personally find this weapon very satisfying. It has a strong physical design that looks powerful, it looks accurate, and it just sounds amazing. To me, the kills gained from this weapon are much more satisfying than the ones gained by the battle rifle. Number 9, the Pulse Grenade. This weapon kind of caught me off guard in Halo 4. I wasn't really expecting to enjoy this as much as I have, but it's come to be one of my favorite additions to the series. It reminds me a lot of the power drain from Halo 3, and I tend to view it more as a tool than an actual weapon. The only problem is that it does somewhat lack in power and flexibility when compared to the plasma or fragmentation grenades, but regardless of that fact, the amount of fun that I have with the Pulse Grenade allowed it to creep onto this list. Number 8, the Needler. This is probably the most unique weapon in the entire Halo series. It fires these little pink needles that track targets, embed in them, and then explode. Such a unique concept, I really like it, and it kind of reminds me of the Hive Hand from the Half-Life series. Just everything about this weapon screams awesome. Each time you watch an enemy explode in that bright pink mist is sadistically satisfying, and there's nothing more frightening than when you're caught on the opposite end of it with nowhere to hide. Number 7, the Energy Sword. This is a weapon that appears on most top 10 lists, and with good reason. It's freaking badass! It's a twin-bladed sword made entirely of plasma that is folded against magnetic rails that extend from the weapon's hilt. It can tear down energy shielding and cut through most metals with pretty much relative ease, like a hot knife through butter. Even an overshield can only withstand a couple of hits from this thing. I love this weapon to death, and I would honestly take this over a lightsaber any day if I was given the option. Number 6, the SMG. Now, since this weapon first debuted in the Halo 2 E3 event, I knew that I was going to love it. Aesthetically, there's nothing really too special about it, and a single SMG is pretty weak, but for some reason, I can't get enough of it. I have no logical reason to explain why I love this weapon so much, I just do. It's a fun weapon, and it gets me excited every time I use it. Whenever I see it, I tend to go out of my way to grab it, even if I'm dropping a better weapon to pick it up. Number 5, the Railgun. Out of all of the weapons that were added in Halo 4, this one is by far my favorite. It reminds me a lot of the Spartan Laser, albeit much weaker and also faster at the same time, and I think it's why I like it so much. I never really liked the Spartan Laser because of how clunky and slow and hard to handle it was, but the Railgun is it's much nimbler. If I have any complaints about the weapon is that it has a massive amount of magnetism that kind of makes it feel unfair whether you're using it or it's being used against you. I would like to see 343 sharply reduce the magnetism and maybe add a small scope to it to compensate, but either way, I hope the Railgun is here to stay. Number 4, the Magnum. More specifically, the Halo CE Magnum. Now, the first time that I ever played Halo was at a friend's house, and this was the first weapon that I ever used in the game, and I immediately fell in love with it. The power and accuracy that it retained over a long distance was astounding to me, and very few weapons have ever felt as satisfying since. Unfortunately, the Halo CE Magnum was also drastically overpowered, and in later games it was severely nerfed. The Magnum may be a shadow of its former glory, but it will always be special to me. Number 3, the Plasma Grenade. What can I really say about the plasma grenade? To me, it's one of the weapons in Halo that stands out the most. Whenever you see this weapon, you know it's Halo. It's not generic, it's not overdone, it's iconic and unique. There's nothing more exhilarating than nailing that clutch stick, and there's nothing more infuriating than getting stuck by a little grunt that you thought you could ignore because, well, it was a grunt. The plasma grenade, it's perfect for those sticky situations.
Bet you can't stick it.
You're on.
Number 2, any of the brute weapons. And yeah, I know this is kind of a cheat, but when I originally put this list together, most of the weapons in this top 10 were brute weapons anyways, and number 2 was the spike rifle, so I figured I would just condense them all into this one. Brute weapons are so fascinating to me. They are primal yet sophisticated, they are advanced, and at the same time they reflect the almost tribal savagery of the Jiralhanai. I'm so sad that the only brute weapon in Halo 4 was the gravity hammer, and I hope they make a much more prominent presence in Halo 5, even if the brutes themselves aren't present. Their weapons are simple, brutal, and more fun than a barrel of monkeys. But we still have one weapon left on this list. What weapon could I possibly rank above every brute weapon, the Magnum and plasma grenades? The focus rifle. Now this is the one that I expect to get a lot of flack over because most people did not like this weapon at all, but I absolutely adored it. I think it not only has a wonderful design aesthetic, but it fits well into the gameplay. You see, the problem that I have with the beam rifle is that it's too much like the human sniper rifle. There's no contrast, especially now that there's the binary rifle, which is pretty much just another sniper rifle that behaves similarly, albeit much more powerful. But the focus rifle is very different, and I think it's a much better counterpart to the human sniper, and it gives the game a much greater amount of variety. I think the focus rifle has great sound, great aesthetic design, and great gameplay mechanics behind it. I hope they bring this weapon back in Halo 5, even if they keep the beam rifle. You could have both of these weapons in the game because they act so differently. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 favorite Halo weapons. Now, excuse me while I prepare my flame shield since I left off a certain burst fire weapon. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt, and I'll see you next time.
I wonder if the ring's environment systems are malfunctioning, or if the designers wanted the installation to have inclement weather.
This is Fire Team Zulu requesting immediate assistance.